That on? Oh man, it sure looks better when when I turn my microphone on. Um, I think what I would say is, first of all, thank you for those of you who have stayed with us through the technical difficulties. But I wanted to just say it was a disappointment for San Antonio to come out so impressively early in the year, getting that win over Memphis, and come back after making that late season run, losing to St. Louis, then overcoming the Battlehawks in the semifinal round. Set up for this tilt with Birmingham. I think they came out a little bit flat. Viewers liking. I was shocked to see that they could not produce, and some of that I put on Chase Garbers, but some of that I also put on the fact that you didn't have your full stable of running backs available, and that Birmingham defense nothing to play with. So hats off to Skip Holtz and company there for getting their third consecutive spring football title. That's not why we're here today, but that needs to be recognized in the course of, hey, this needs to be an event that people want to watch every year, and I recognize, it's never going to be the NFL necessarily, but you want it to be an event that gets appreciated, and I was disappointed at not the effort, but I guess the competitiveness, right? The level of competitiveness that the matchup lacked in that Sunday UFL title game, the first ever title game. Thomas lost to the Battlehawks, or lost to the Stallions, 25-0. So hopefully we will see better on those fronts. Now, this week obviously has been a big week for players signing with different NFL teams. They were allowed to sign with NFL teams starting on Monday, the day after the title game, and a few of them have already signed, so congratulations to those guys. Before that signing had been done, starting even last week, and I was a little delinquent with this, but I had started making out a 26 under 26 list. What I meant by that was a list of the top 26 players in the United Football League, or basically like teams to watch, like priority free agents. And I determined that on a couple of factors, and I skewed it a little bit this direction, and I'll tell you which one it is. The guys who have been signed this week, I think some of them were on this list, certainly, and you'll see that here in just a second. But it was one of those things where I felt like if I went totally by grade or I went just by stats, those would be things where I think most of the people watching the league get those things, right? So I felt like it was important for me to do a little bit of my own thing and try to have my own spin on it, my own evaluation on it, based on what I was able to see from the matchups that I saw with Memphis and also just a little bit of film watching, of course, the year. But so the qualifications I had were, one, I wanted to try and work off of good PFF grades. Didn't have to be sterling, didn't have to be like the best ever, although some of them certainly did have grades. But I think I tried to take the PFF grading with a grain of salt, especially I think when it comes to line play, where there were some things that I disagreed with. But I try to use that as a baseline for, all right, which guys perform well, and does it match the kind of what I saw, and does it match the stat profile that I put together? So I focused on a couple of things. One, the biggest group of players in the United Football League right now is 26 years old. Right? That is the largest percentage of players on any UFL roster at close of the season was 6 years. I believe 88 26-year-olds and 83 27-year-olds. That 26 was sort of the largest age bracket. So the reason I try to pick guys who are under the age of 26 is because when you see that bubble at age 26, that's kind of, I feel like, the last window that you are working, and if you haven't been seen by an NFL team at that time, had good production through age 26, maybe it's not going to happen. That's for a variety of reasons. But I was trying to work and see, okay, who are the guys who are not yet 26 that if an NFL team is looking for somebody productive to put on their practice squad, add some depth to that roster, these would be candidates. So it had to be two things. It had to be guys who were not yet 26 years old, and it also had to be guys who had been seen by only one NFL team previously. And by that I mean preseason or regular season game action, only one NFL team. I think once you've been seen by multiple teams in the NFL, you kind of have a profile with the league, what you can and cannot do, or who you can and cannot be. kind of how you can and cannot help the team. I think because you had multiple sets of professional evaluators at the highest level looking at you at that. So getting the chance to play in preseason, I think is the opportunity. I think that I was sort of going off of. Most of these guys that were on the list, some were excluded because, like Jontre Kirkland, perfect example. I think a guy who I think has the talent to be on an NFL roster, or certainly an NFL practice squad, but also has been seen. He's 25 years old, but he has been seen previously by 2 NFL teams, either regular season or preseason game action. With you had to be under 26, and you had to be having been seen in 2 NFL seasons or preseasons, fewer than 2 NFL seasons or preseasons. All the guys who are on this list were guys who are under the age of 26, and guys who had been with an NFL team preseason or regular season for only 1 season prior to this UFL season, right? Prior to this list coming out. Those were the qualifications I went with. I'm curious to hear your feedback, so please give me your comments. I'd love to hear that stuff from you guys. We can debate. We can have a dialogue here because I think that makes my football knowledge better. In fact, best thing would be tell me where I'm wrong. That would be the best thing. So there's a couple of names in this list that I like, and I'm going to try to play a couple of video clips as well that I got for some guys. But I'll go through the list with you, and so let me pull this up. I'll go offense first. A lot of these, guys you'll know. The guys that have had their names in orange already had at least a reported offer from an NFL team or about to be signing with an NFL team. So congratulations. A lot of these guys, Ricky Person, I believe Seattle, Jacob Sailors, the New York Giants, guys, standout running backs, Dawood Davis to the Carolina Panthers as wideout, Liam Fornadell, guard signing with the Patriots, and then Jake Bates, kicker, signing with the Detroit Lions. And those guys had tremendous years, especially obviously Bates came out hot of the gates, 64-yard field goal to win the game, right, in Detroit back in week 1. Huge, built on that by having a pretty good season down the stretch as well. So hopefully he can make an impact with the Lions and Dan Campbell and company. I loved getting to watch Dawood Davis on the showboats. I think there were times when his hands betrayed him, but I think he certainly has the speed and the talent to be on an NFL roster, so I'm glad that he's going to get that chance. And I felt like there were a couple of backs that popped. I gave the nod to John Lovett. There are some health concerns there, I admit that, but Jacob Sailors I thought was just an incredible dual threat. I don't want to put him necessarily in like Brian Westbrook territory, but certainly had just like sort of the flashes, the shades, right, of a sort of a do-it-all back like a Marshall Faulk or a Jonathan Taylor, a guy like that. Only 5'10", about 200 pounds. I think can certainly be bigger, but I'm glad that he's getting an opportunity. I think the same for Ricky Person. I've in years past I've tended to love that Seattle backfield with like a hard charging crew. I think it's been similar in the last couple of years the way they've built it, and Person certainly brings that. 30 physical back, former highly rated college recruit. A guy that I hope does really well there. He kind of anchored that running attack for Birmingham. This was excellent. But I wanted to pick out 2 guys on that list that are not necessarily the standouts. Justin Hall, once again, I think has been one of the best receivers in the league, and that kind of goes underappreciated because he's a little bitty guy, right? And as a little bitty guy myself, who doesn't have, even a pinky's worth of Justin Hall's talent, I root for those guys. Seen a little bit of time with the Raiders previously, but I think the degree to which he is appreciated, I think, gets a little bit at times undercut by the fact that he's not as big of a guy. And like the Tank Dells of the world, so to speak, come out here, and if NFL teams think highly enough of you, they'll tend to take you at that size in the NFL draft. For whatever reason, not up to their standards at that size, you stand less of a chance. But I loved what 2 guys that I'm going to list did, and that's Jonathan Adams and Kiki Chisholm. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of what those 2 guys were able to do this year. Recognize there was some times where I felt like they could have done more. At least that was my feeling, that they could have done more at times. I think I would also say that there were moments where I felt like, wow, that guy, like, I think surprising. Boy, that is the a head scratching play in the sense that, like, why is this guy making this play here, and couldn't he make this play on Sunday? Right. So I thought that was one of the things that for me made me kind of have these two guys stick out just on my radar. So, look at Adams and Chisholm, both guys that I felt like were targeted a lot. And look, they're a certain type of receiver, right? So they are deep ball threats. And deep ball, jump ball threats more so. Contested catch guys. I think they both caught at least 60% of their targets. They each had at least, I think, 15 contested targets, and they caught 70% of those balls. So these are guys with huge frames. 6'3" for Jonathan Adams, 6'5" for Kiki Chisholm. And they look like it, and I think that has helped them throughout their careers be reliable, especially when they can't get separation. And in it a lot, especially if you were watching Showboats football this year, where Jonathan Adams couldn't separate, but was often the one drawing a flag on the defensive back in coverage because separation was the thing that the defensive back was often denying to them. But I was pretty impressed with those two guys. I'll show you just a little bit of kind of what they brought to the table because I felt like they were worth seeing. guys to get an opportunity for NFL action. I also wanted to point out a couple of guys on defense. I felt like, once again, these were guys that I think deserve an opportunity at the NFL level, even if it's on the practice squad, and have done enough to earn that. So defensively, tip of the cap to Jalen Redmond, who's already got a contract offer at the NFL level. I thought that was important because he got hurt early in the year. So knowing that and knowing that he was like on the shelf a little bit and wasn't going to be as productive as we thought, him going to the Vikings was, I think, cool to see, especially because he's one of the guys who's definitely got the resume, the pedigree, to be someone who NFL people take a look at. Jalen Redmond, former high recruit, I think former 5-star recruit, and ended up this year as even in his limited action as the highest defensive lineman in the league grade-wise for ball focus. But had a good career, not a great career at Oklahoma. I think obviously had it been a great career, maybe it would have shown up differently draft-wise, but made an impact early in the season. Love getting to see him get the chance. The Minnesota Vikings. Thought he showed an incredible speed, I thought, from the defensive tackle position. Pretty impressive in terms of not a lot of guys at that position. Show that to you, but I saw him chase down guys, whether it was quarterbacks or whether it was guys in the I thought that was pretty impressive. I also wanted to pump up two guys on this list who have not been signed yet. Perhaps they will be signed. And by the way, another tip of the cap to Prince Emili, who got an offer from the Atlanta Falcons this week, I believe. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed, but I think it's been rumored. Put up the wrong slide. I should have actually. I'll tell you, there's one name on this list that maybe sticks out to you, goes against my qualifications, and it's in the linebacking core, Mike Rose, which has been incredibly highly rated, but has also been a guy who has been seen twice by NFL teams previously. Why he did not end up actually making this list for me. Had Jordan Mosley in place, but he was not one of the guys that I wanted to spotlight today. But I do think that that whole Iowa State contingent there, whether it's Hakeem Butler and Willie Harvey and Mike Rose in St. Louis, certainly brought that team a long way this year. Congratulations to Harvey for getting signed by the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully, Mike Rose, Hakeem Butler will also delight the Cyclone faithful with signings of their own. The guy I wanted to point to actually is not a Division I player here, but I think showed at least the potential to be situational pass rush talent. That's Malik Fisher. I thought he was incredibly impressive as a guy who, coming out of Villanova, obviously you have to earn a little bit more respect. He had a really good year for DC. Thought he also did a really good job. I think he also got an opportunity for try out with the Baltimore Ravens a couple of weeks ago, and haven't heard anything since on that front. But certainly like a guy who I felt pops on the tape, and I felt like when you look at guys. Got an opportunity, potentially. See if I can get get this going. Quick time. I know, I'm new at this. There. So he just right away, the speed at which he gets home, like right there, you saw the pass breakup. Like that's a pretty, I think, a special read because he's rushing to the outside. It seems intentionally, knowing that there's a receiver coming that way. He's not necessarily going for the quarterback. He's going to protect the outside and make sure there's not a run or a pass. But for him to make the impact that he did, I was actually surprised that his tackle count was so. Certainly made an impact on the likes of Chase Garber, McCarron, but he just is explosive. I think in the way that we usually talk about NFL tight ends. You see there, he forced the right tackle to false start because he was worried about his pressure. Very next play, that tackle. I think it was Marlon or John in San Antonio. But Fisher to me was the guy who play after play, round after round, so to speak, get in there and bother offensive linemen to the point where would oftentimes give up their quarterback. Here, this is probably one of the weirdest, strangest angles to try and make a sack from, but he basically had to clothesline Garbers to get him down. See, here he just comes barreling off the edge, takes out McCarron, and not only that, swallows up the football as well. Just a play there. He's got NFL size. Some of these guys, you see him like maybe a little bit smaller than what you'd expect in the NFL level, but he's, 6'3", I think 260. Looks like he's cut out for a poster. But a guy who I think clearly for a DC team that stayed in a lot of ball games with their defense, I think he was a big part of it, providing some pressure on that front. And by the way, part of this is to recognize the guys that you didn't get to see in the UFL playoffs, and this is one of them, right? You would have loved to, I think, have seen him put pressure on opposing quarterbacks in the UFL playoffs, but DC did not make it there. So that was a guy that definitely stuck out to me. I was pleased. Hope people get a chance to see him on Sunday, or at least somewhere in a practice squad where he can make a difference on special teams. Again, he's got sort of the body type that you'd expect a special teamer in the NFL to have. Guy running down there on kickoff, tight ends, linebackers, those guys who can cover a bunch of ground. Brought it, that was impressive. Able to get to the quarterback as often as he did, beat a couple of guys, and I still would have loved to see him make more plays. I'm not sure he's a guy you want to necessarily put in coverage often, at least certainly not in man-to-man, and not on drop into a flat, maybe quarterback spy if you trust him to cover that kind of ground. But me, I thought he was pretty strong on tape, and why he was just the other guy who's on this list that I'm going to get to, Markel Roby. Roby was, I thought, had a knack for the ball. That was his biggest thing. Kind of, again, a lot of these guys under-scouted a little bit. Roby in particular was a guy who, memory serves, an AIA guy, then went to Pittsburgh State, played 2 years at Pittsburgh State, which is a really good Division II program. But again, that's the kind of guy that tends to get under-scouted. He didn't make every play. You'll see that from the tape. But I do think that he made a ton of plays, and to his credit, thought he did a really nice job having a knack for the football, being near it, being around it, messing with it, if you will. And I'm going to try and bring that up here in a second, because he was, the playmaking at times, you were wanting some things from him where it felt like it wasn't quite there with like opportunities that presented themselves to him. He was either he couldn't make the grab on like a potential interception, or he just didn't just quite show out play where he felt like he could have done a little bit more. So I'm interested to see whether or not he's able to potentially get an opportunity with an NFL team, because I thought extremely good, like somebody in your practice squad to be right, cover. In addition to that, thought could be a presence like on special teams once again. Like I know we keep hammering that point home. Not the guy that wow you, but it puts together a lot of tape. So I roll this and let. But again, here comes flying off the edge, forces the sack fumble. Right, not going to have a lot of those from your safety, but a guy I thought who had a really good coverage grade, especially I think in man coverage. Safeties are asked to do somewhat sparingly, but I think for him to be able to fly around, find the football, and kind of make a play on it. Ball pops up in the air, he's right there to get it. Now this return ultimately ends up being negated by a holding penalty, I think, or maybe a block penalty on the return. But to have the presence of mind to come over, to catch the tip ball, and then to make something of it, what everybody wants from defensive backs, ball hawking safety types, and he really did have himself around the football to such a high extent that it's hard to ignore. Right, right place, right time. Some of that is luck, but some of that is preparation and anticipation. And a lot of that for a Houston defense that started out looking good, got banged up, and I think kind of got worn down towards the end of the season. So shout out to him. Here, obviously, throw where I feel like he probably should have picked that one off, able to knock it down. Danny Etling puts this one right out there for him. Maybe if he's 6'1" or 2, not 6 feet even, they should have made it. In position to make it, certainly, and felt like he was around the ball a lot. Guy who's able to make some special plays with his hands. Look here again. This was ruled on review, but check out the catch that he made. Well, it's not on there, but he made an incredible catch on that play in the end zone. Made another incredible tip here. He's able to knock it up in the air against Bryce Perkins and catch it. Right, like yeah, maybe you don't make that throw as a quarterback. But just for your DB to come up and be in your face and also make that play to have the reaction time to do so, that's fairly impressive. I thought, there were times where his tackling looked, like it could use a little bit of work, but just the ball skills and his ability to be around the ball frequently, some of the things that impressed me. Bigger guys like this, he's got to go under them. And for the most part, like he's not going to be Kyle Hamilton, right? He's not going to play close to the line of scrimmage all the time, but when you need him to make a stop, he can make a stop. I think he certainly puts himself around the ball to the degree. Yeah, you want playmaking on your special teams, if nothing else, certainly on your practice squad. If you're trying to show looks, that was my read on. Again, got his hands on another pass here, even if it's an ill-advised pass. That's got to try and do is make the other team pay for their mistakes. Certainly in the vicinity on a lot of these plays. Try and make them collect on that debt, that risk, if you will, quarterback. So impressive there. I think once again, comes up right in the grill of Adrian Martinez. Try and get his team the momentum going into a halftime of a game where they were really, really close to the eventual league champs and just could not get it done. Pretty good year for Markel Roby, is considered. I thought Corey Mayfield, among the young cornerbacks, graded really well. Kedrick Whitehead graded well, and I think he popped on tape the way Roby did. I think more so with hitting, defending the run, wasn't quite as good in coverage. I think you could say some of the same things about Jordan Mosley, still a very young player out of Maryland. Ton of tackles this year for San Antonio, and he and Tavante Beckett, I think, were very similar in that way, where they're built honestly more like safeties, and Mosley, I believe, is a safety, but Beckett's more of a linebacker. But they are meant to fly to the football, make tackles, coming forward and side to side, not necessarily like covering guys, sticking them. Maybe there is a place for them. John White didn't get a lot of time this year. Highly graded in the minutes that he got in the playing time that he got. Similar for Momo Sanogo, although Sanogo wasn't as versatile as some of these guys. I try to put Christopher Allen on there as well for being young and having a decent grade. Jordan Ferguson for being young and for taking so many reps. Memphis team that I think look overwhelmed at a lot of times. performance. I think led to some missed tackles, but I think Ferguson was as consistent as anybody on that Memphis defense, and that's why he made. Garrett Nelson also was good was not a damage door in every single play, every single game. I think picked his spots well. Curious to know what people think of this. I'm certainly interested to see who else signs with NFL teams. Some of these guys like surprise me. Didn't see Arion Conley signing necessarily with the Cowboys, I think, and didn't necessarily see Jared Jones-Smith signing. I think my perspective was, and I'm interested to hear other people's. Conley, having come from the NFL, it's hard to get back, and I wouldn't really put him on this list because been seen by a couple of teams already, and had some serious NFL time. Jared Jones-Smith, I just thought throughout the year, I'm no offensive line expert, but when I watched him hold. Maybe that goes unevaluated, ungraded, but I thought there were times where he get away with a little bit of this and that. But all that said, lots of other people thought he was an all UFL caliber offensive lineman. So glad that he gets the opportunity, and that's what you want this league to do, right? Is showcase guys who people are unsure if they're good enough. Give them the chance. They perform well. They show enough to be evaluated and signed or offered a contract. That works, right? That's the UFL working. Putting guys in spots where they can sign a contract, even if it's only $10,000 guaranteed. I want to give the biggest shout out to Dondre Tillman, who's been spring football everything. It feels like for 30 years. He's only been in the league for 3 years, but I think this is going to be him signing with the Broncos. Hopefully, he gets a chance in preseason to show what he can do. Recognize, coming out of Division II at times, right? You don't have the profile of some of these top-ranked guys, but just hugely productive and a great big part of that Birmingham offense year in and year out. Hopefully, Dondre Tillman sticks with the Broncos. Does some good for Sean Payton. He's 26, I believe, so he didn't qualify necessarily for this line. But he, for a guy who hadn't really been looked at seriously by NFL teams at this point, to win a third straight spring football title with Birmingham and to be a huge part of that defense, he and some others on the defense certainly probably deserve a look. But if I was going to write or I should say an honorable mention list, I think I'd try to get some 26-year-olds. Would be one of them. Mike Panishuk might be one of them, the center for St. Louis. A couple other guys that didn't quite fit on. Hopefully, people get a chance to see a lot more UFL guys in action because they get signed and stay on with these different NFL teams. Interested to see what they have in store. But if I miss somebody, please let me know, and I'd be happy to kind of engage a little bit debates. But I like talking UFL, and I think the UFL is here to stay. So I'm going to be interested to hopefully continue this discussion. This facet of it, other facets of it throughout not only 2024 but 2025, because I think people want to question whether or not the UFL is going to be around and what's it for, and why should I care? And the answer is, especially for places that don't have pro football, they have some other team available to them. I think it's awesome to see football played at this level. Get the chance to say, hey, I saw a guy before he actually did something. That's cool for, I think, people on local level. It's just a chance to see more football. These guys are working as hard as anybody. These coaches teaching the game not only to them but to us fans, because we get to see more of the game, more access to as well this time of year, and that levels things up a little bit in a way. College football kind of follow suit. This is part of growing the game and giving more people access to players, and I think it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. Obviously, if I lived somewhere where there wasn't a team, maybe I'd feel differently. But I think it's pretty cool. I hope people enjoy getting to see the UFL and getting to see some of the guys they used to know from college, kind of working their way up, and some other guys who you maybe don't know life-changing money. But I'm going to try and put out some more UFL content later this year. As the summer goes forward. But I'm trying to build the presence on this YouTube channel anyway. As you can tell here today, I had some trouble with the graphics and had some trouble with the microphone. So I'm going to keep working on that, phoning up my OBS. But let me know if I missed anybody, guys that like you think belong on this list. And I'll try to put out some more content, throughout the summer on the UFL. And if you're on this channel, hopefully you'll stick around for some content on some other things like potentially, women's basketball. People who know me know I'm involved in that. Time I'm going to try and more WNBA and women's college basketball stuff as well. College football certainly. The main market stuff as well. I'm Tyler Springs. Been another episode of Typhoon Streams, and please let me know who you think belongs on the UFL 26 under 26 list. Did I get it right? Did I get it